Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 15th of May, and you can see, well, a little bit of a retrace there. We had that pivot lower. It started at the open of the morning along with green pointing down. Those are two negative things, and it just carried throughout. So we had the pop above the 7.5 there, and typically when they start down like that, it was pretty straightforward. Intraday, it was just very slow, and then as time went on, there just weren't any new buyers, and this is what we were talking about coming across over here. You just weren't seeing any new excitement in the form of, you had the red going across here, was fine, nothing to be too shocked about. We were near positive extreme, not horrible by any stretch of the imagination. NQ was modest as well. Now this is a little more serious though, because we had talked about the NQ being weaker in that the green hadn't passed, that it needed to carry through, and that pivot away. Ooh, that's rarely a good opportunity for a bull. We would expect a little more weakness there. And then likewise, looking at the YM, so we were talking about this steel dipping below cyan, not be good. In this case, the green was controlling because it was above cyan, but now you have cyan moving back above green, and you have red crossing white. All of those were ugly, and, well, again, there was the downside target, 16,490 for the Red Hawk. No shock there. You know what, we can take a look at the numbers for the radar screens, looking at all the high flyers. A lot of charts that had come up with a little bit of oomph to them. Just got a little tired. That happens. We'll go to the NASDAQ next. A lot of new pink cells in there. And S&P also showing a bunch of new pink ones. And those have the DP, which was really your full-on sell signal, and the Dow right there. So that's all nice and dandy. Rising USO and bullish in its breakout. So interesting to have this turnaround when you have oil moving up in such a nice function. Almost overbought. So I don't know that the downside, so to speak, is all that big a concern when you're seeing oil continue up like that. Oddly, too, we had a breakout a little bit of gold, given that it was separating to the negative side and now has formed a lower peak. So I would expect gold to give back some of that. We also saw the rising cyan with the green, which is rarely a positive stroke, and in fact it did produce. And this is why we weren't anxious on a lot of these for necessarily long setups as much as trading time for puts, just expecting, like even CLF, similar, just expecting it to kind of move across within the weakness, but in a series of little bi dot fractals there. And it started going up, but still the green was not being able to get above the red. To do it now, yeah, oh no, just still a little bit behind it, though the red is still above the white, and they are moving into new zones. So not horrible, just not going to produce anything. You got to see that cyan come down and meet it, preferably down here at the 7.5 area right there, and that's usually your judgment day. 78-minute standpoint, you can see the rollover started there with it. It was still fairly decent shape all the way until it broke down. Cyan popped above, but it was the steel coming down was the first warning. Took place right about there. You got confirmation once the steel dipped below the cyan right there. Then you were just looking for completion, which didn't really happen until the very last bar. But needless to say, that was an easy trade, either from taking the early bird, and if you're looking at intraday charts, it would even been sooner from a 15-minute standpoint. We were expecting retraces on AIG from that peak. It had pivoted lower there, and we could see that any little rundown was just going to give us a positive extreme retrace. Not bad from that sense, but if that steel dips below cyan and you continue to see cyan moving higher, that would be a concern. But like we talked about, opportunity was there to take the gains on that one, enjoy it. WLT was an interesting one because we were expecting lower move, but it turned around in the first bar with a nice pop-up. produced decent little setup within there. But then cyan popped back immediately. Right there, we got deep red, and it responded to the deep red perfectly. When did that come in? 690. So it was a nice little decay there. From our 50K standpoint, no shock. We talked about it. The stops had risen up there, moved over quite a bit for it. A lot of us on the Skype chat have been talking about the short was really back up over here when we had the dip of the green below the cyan, and it just took the better part of a day plus for it to finally realize that. And all we were really looking for was the positive extreme, which you can see right down here. And I was just looking for right in about there at the 82 level for a retrace, and we actually dipped right to it. So it was right on line with expectations. So all that was perfect. We can look at the intraday. It was really boring. Here's the 5K intraday, and you can see just from looking at it, we had that red that we had talked about. It retraced it, a little teeny pop going in there, and then it was just the cyan popping above, steel dip below. Gave plenty of opportunities, even with a little pop right after that too. But then it just traded lower and then sideways with kind of invariably low pops. But you can see that it was clearly the steel and cyan were above, and the green and red stayed below the entire day until we got it right here at the end. Modest little retrace up there, but coming off the deep red, we would expect that to come back down to it. So all in all, that was just a boring but pretty straightforward day. Moving on to some of the alert charts, we had Apple here. We weren't upset with anything that was going on with Apple. It was just, kind of getting to the point where we had now moved out of the safety zone briefly. Potential for some positive extreme retraces, but nothing too dramatic for it. The move back, though, above the 0 point, something to look at because that could give more of a retrace from there. If steel had popped up above, I'd be more interested to see steel move above and then back below again as a really confirmed kind of short signal. But I suspect it's just going to move a little bit sideways here, maybe lower with that positive extreme. Amazon, deep red, we were expecting that to retrace. Google, they had seen some improvement on these, but there was still a big range that we were talking about between my lovely little rectangles that just keep extending when its separation is like that. Would have needed to see that cyan move lower at the start of the day. It didn't happen, and boom, got nowhere. Actually, decent move for Netflix considering it's not pretty. It was part of that 3 lower peak divergence right there, but still can get green above red in that. I would be looking more at the put side of that. And from an intraday standpoint, to take advantage of the divergence. PCLN, just had completed the negative red, but we would expect that to come back down. I was saying the 1089 level, and it started that just a little bit. Began the path. Got some hate mail about Twitter. Tesla, they're still constantly yelling at me because didn't I know that this is the greatest company in the world, yada yada. And the short signal was clear from way back, and really just for the tiny pops is all it's produced. This is actually one of the better signals it's had, but still you get that huge spread between the cyan and the green, red, white here. And so unless that tips down dramatically in the next day, lower pivot here that dips below cyan would be a new sell signal. So I wouldn't be all that thrilled with that setup. Twitter, everyone told me that the bottom was in, that this wasn't going to roll over at all. Bottom is in so far still, though we've got our deep red, so we were expecting lower, and it's done exactly that from the beginning of the signal. And where did that signal come in there? At 33.94. It's been about $1. Nothing much. Baidu. And had kind of an unusual pop from there, given the fact that green is still below the red. It may cross over, though the red now is crossed below white. So not looking for a whole lot. If that steel dips below and cyan moves up a little bit, I would expect a deeper decline. We had talked about how FAS had been outdoing the market and finally separated. And that's all we look for, is that little breakaway, just kind of the V symbol. Facebook continuing to try but not get anywhere. It had just popped above the red, but there was just no momentum with these things having such large separation. Got to see those things come together as far as the steel, the cyan and the green, and usually down between somewhere between this -7 and 0 range to just at least change the direction. This is just sideways channel stuff, so nothing special taking place in any of that action. I was going to go over it, and you know what? I'll look for it. I'm going to play my comments about this cyan candle and the daily that it produced, and what we've been looking for, because when we get these kind of setups, you've got to be ready to take those. They've produced some extraordinary gains over the last year, and always worth the trade. So let me get that together, and then I will add it to this as an addendum. But as always, continue to look for me on private Twitter feed, StockTwits. Trade well. Okay, here's the video from the 12th, and I'm just going to go ahead and play what I said about the cyan
Combine that with the fact that we've got this wonderful little candle here, which we know that we look for those. Now, the last one was our first loss of the year on all of these that have produced pretty decent gains. So it's projecting a Monday higher move. I'm not going to argue with it because, again, when we go back through the history of that, that is pretty impressive. You do have the right components. Everything's on the right. Everything's on the right side. Is it fantastic? No. Would it have been better if the green had moved above into the new zone? Yeah. So if we get weakness to start with, we take advantage of any buy signals that come along, and opportunity is easy with that. You can do it from SPY calls. That will work as well. Or you can actually do the share.
Okay, so, well, just pausing in the video there. That gives an indication that we were clearly looking for Monday's move to be what it was. I think next time what I'll do is I'll give you a specific stop value, and we don't have a target because it's just the end of the day on the blue candle expectation. So hopefully that helps in revisiting it. But as always, we'll talk again tomorrow. Trade well.